The second IXL for the week is IXL II, colons, semicolons, and commas with lists. It's again a little bit more challenging, so it'll be scored out of 80 points. If you get higher than 80, you can get extra credit for that. There are 3 rules to be aware of for this one. The first one is how to use colons with a list. So we use colons to introduce a list after a complete sentence. If a list does not follow a complete sentence, do not put punctuation to introduce the list. A couple of examples. My parents have visited much of Western Europe. That could stand alone as a sentence, and then the list comes after that. Austria, Belgium, France, Germany, Greece, Italy, the Netherlands, Portugal, and Spain. So we do a colon right here before the list, but after the complete sentence. The second example, my parents have visited much of Western Europe, including. Now that doesn't finish the thought, it leaves you hanging, so we do not do a colon before the list on that one. So if there were the blank on the activity there, you would simply leave it blank, and then it has the list. The second rule, the next rule to deal with is items in a series. So we use commas to separate 3 or more items in a series. Put a comma after each item in the list except for the last one. So here's our example. Our speakers will be Kevin O'Malley, comma, Rachel Stein, comma, and Linda Wu. Because there are 3 people in the list, we do a comma after this one, a comma after this one before the and, but of course we don't need a comma after the other one. That's the end of the sentence. And the third rule is items in a complex series. Use semicolons to separate items in a series when using commas would be unclear, such as when 1 or more items in the series already contain commas. So if we look at this example, our speakers will be Kevin O'Malley, an English professor, Rachel Stein, a print journalist, and Linda Wu, a blogger. So the English professor is telling us more about Kevin O'Malley, so those need to be grouped together. So we'll use a comma here, but then a semicolon to say we're going on to the next idea. So Rachel Stein, a print journalist, that goes together, and then Linda Wu, a blogger, goes together. So because there are already commas, we would put a semicolon to separate those complex items. So here we go with some practice for that. II.2. Add commas, semicolons, or colons if needed, otherwise submit the text without any additional punctuation. So, before he became president, Ronald Reagan, known as the Great Communicator, was a radio announcer, a Hollywood actor, and a governor of California. So we have a series, but we need to look and see it says was a before the list. It wasn't asking us what we needed there, but we do have a series of items, so we need to put commas. You have to type the punctuation in, put commas for those, and submit. Okay, so here it looks like we have a list after whatever it is, so we need to find out if the part before that space is a complete sentence or not. About 6,000 endangered snow leopards live in the wild, and the largest populations are found in. So that leaves us hanging, so we do not do a colon, we'll do a nothing there. It'll just read on, are found in China, Mongolia, India, and Kyrgyzstan. As of 2014, the dwarf planet Pluto has 5 known moons. That could stand alone as a sentence, and then we have the list of the moons, so that one we should introduce with a colon. Next, magnificent 4th of July fireworks displays can be found in St. Louis, Missouri, Addison, Texas, and Stone Mountain, Georgia, where fireworks follow a 3D laser show. So we already have commas here, and St. Louis goes with Missouri, Addison goes with Texas, so we want to separate. It becomes a complex series because we already have commas, so we put semicolons between. One thing I want to point out is that we will never use a semicolon to introduce a list. So the choice on that one is, do we use a colon or do we use nothing? We never use a semicolon to introduce. The 5 most populous cities in the world are located in Asia. That could stand alone, and then we go with the list after that, so we're going to go with a colon. Submit. To improve creativity while brainstorming for new ideas, some experts recommend standing rather than sitting, taking a walk, collaborating with others. So we have a list, but it left us hanging. It wasn't a complete sentence, so we're going to leave that blank, put in nothing. Many raw root vegetables such as beets, celery root. So we have a series there. I don't see commas already in between those, so we're just going to use commas. We don't need semicolons because of that. Beets, celery root, and parsnips and squash can be grated for deliciously crisp salads, slaws, and salads. Okay, so hopefully you get the idea. I'll do one more with you. You know what? I'm going to get one wrong on purpose because I want to point out something. So I'm just going to miss that one, and then if you miss one, take the time to look. You don't have to reread through everything because these rules are very similar to what I already went over with you. But please look at this solve section. So one or more of the items in the series already contain commas. Separating the items with commas would be unclear, so you should complete the sentence with semicolons. So it'll tell you exactly what you got wrong with that specific problem so you can learn from your mistakes, which is always a good thing. Okay, hope you do well on this. Have a good time and have a great week.